Is pain your addiction? Are you actually addicted to the pain? I mean, there is a fine line between pleasure and pain, so can't blame you there. Sometimes you have to experience the pain to get to the pleasure. In fact, when I was doing a little bit of research, because I wanted to know if anyone had thought of this idea of being addicted to pain. Well, and some of the things that I found talked about how we inflict pain on ourselves because the infliction of pain creates a release of endorphins, which ends up making you feel good or even high. So I just find that to be interesting. But from my point of view, I wanted to talk about being addicted to pain because I get the chance to help people in pain, and I'd love to get the chance to help those who are addicted to pain. And as we'll talk about in a minute, we'll see how and why I may not be able to help them. In this episode, we are going to talk about the 3 signs that you might be addicted to pain. We'll also talk about why you're addicted to pain and how to get in recovery for your pain addiction. Let's start with the 3 signs that you might be addicted to pain. Number 1, you make excuses on why you can't get out of it. So this could either be that you just believe that, say, you have a family history of chronic knee pain, and so you just basically believe that you're destined for that. So what's the point of doing anything for it if you already believe that it's something that you're destined to have? You also make excuses for why you maybe can't exercise that may help you to get out of pain, or why you can't change your nutrition that could help release some inflammation to get out of pain. You can't change your schedule around to reduce some stress that helps you get out of your pain. You can't seek professional help to get yourself out of pain. You just make up all these excuses, whether it's time or it's money, which, trust me, those are resources you have to manage, but I do think that you can find a way to make it happen if you really wanted to. Number 2, another sign that you might be addicted to pain is you cancel opportunities that may help you get out of it. For instance, you cancel your medical massage appointments. Anything that happens in life comes before your own self-care. So if something comes up with your 16-year-old child who can definitely take care of themselves, you cancel your appointment because you feel that you have to be there. But really, you just are addicted to feeling bad and you want to, I'm so sorry. It sounds so harsh, but it's true. And we'll get into why. I'm not blaming you, okay? But you're addicted to feeling bad. And so anything that comes up that would give you some opportunity to avoid the opportunity that can actually help you feel better, you'll do it. Anything comes in your way, you will use that as a reason to get out of helping yourself. The third sign that you might be addicted to pain is you feel uncomfortable when you don't experience pain. If you are actually in a pain-free state, you will do things to create more pain in your life because it's more comfortable for you to feel pain, even though that sensation is really uncomfortable. But to you, it's more comfortable to feel pain because that's your norm. Now let's get into why. Why are you addicted to pain? I'm sure there are many reasons, and many more than what I'm going to talk about today, but I've got a few that are on top of mind. Number 1, you have dealt with it for so long that it feels normal. And like I was just mentioning, that it's uncomfortable when you don't experience pain, that because it's your normal to experience pain, you just can't really seem to live any other way. And this can happen, I believe when you've been hurt as a child, maybe it's honestly stems back to some sort of child abuse that you have always experienced pain. And so as you grow up and you get older, you're so used to having that feeling of pain that you almost recreate it because it is normal. So there's a psychological philosophy phenomenon That's called repetition compulsion. So this is when you unconsciously desire to reenact earlier trauma. However, this compulsion doesn't help you overcome that trauma and could actually worsen the situation. And it occurs when you repeat traumatic behaviors from your past, even when you know it's not good for you. So this happens with people who like get into bad relationships or abusive relationships when they've experienced that younger. But I also think when just focusing on the pain, it's like you recreate pain in your life because you experience so much pain, maybe in your childhood that it feels normal to continue to create that pain for yourself. And outside of experiencing, childhood trauma, this could also be an injury that you experienced at a young age that was never fully treated and created a lot of chronic pain for you. And as you grow up, even though maybe you are doing things or have done things or have opportunities to make it better, you choose not to because, again, it just feels normal. Another reason this happens is it's the only way that you can feel something. Like you would rather feel something negative because you don't know how maybe to feel a positive emotion. I think this again stems from more trauma that you're just used to feeling so bad that you continue that on, even if you're taken out of that situation that was negative, you just kind of reenact it, recreate it. It helps you to feel something. You've been disconnected from your emotions. And pain is something that I believe is how your body communicates with you. And there are times often where the pain that you're experiencing is from an emotion that has not been fully processed and essentially gets stuck in your body. And so when you aren't feeling that emotion, you're feeling the pain. Now, if you can feel that emotion, then you can release the pain. But maybe because you're addicted to feeling that pain, you don't even want to feel that emotion. There's a lot of fear that comes with that too. In our last episode, we talked about some of that. So go back and watch when you feel like your body hates you, watch that episode because we talk a little bit more about that. And the other reason that you may be addicted to pain is because you don't believe that you can feel good. Maybe you don't believe based on family history. You have a family history of chronic knee pain, so you believe that that's what you're destined for. Maybe you were told and hurt so much as a child that you really believe that you're not worthy, that you shouldn't feel good, that maybe you've been taught that, you know, bad things happen to people who feel good or like never feel too good because it could be knocked down. And so you kind of create this state of pain to keep you from ever really moving forward in life. Another reason is because it's part of your story. There is some benefit that you are getting by being in pain. Maybe it's the only way that you can get attention. Maybe you never get attention unless you have pain. This is the one thing that maybe people check in on you about, or maybe it's the one thing that gives you something to talk about. It's part of your identity as being in pain. And so if you actually release that pain, then who are you anymore? What more do you have to talk about? Will anyone care about you if you're not, feeling bad? I actually had a client who, when we did some deeper work on, diving into some of her pain and her issues and some of her health issues, I asked her, I said, how is this serving you? Because in some way it is serving you. And she shared that if she got healthy, then she would have to make decisions that were really hard for her, which is ultimately leaving her relationship that was not a good relationship. But if she felt good, then she'd have to make that change. And she was afraid to make that change because she was afraid what would happen. And so she'd rather stay in, dis-ease than have to feel good and make a change. And the other thing is in this relationship, the only way she did get attention or that she felt that she was able to take care of herself, take time for herself was once she got sick. So ultimately, her body created this illness in order for her to take the time out to do the health related activities that she needed to do. It is so crazy how our bodies work. And I know a lot of times we get really discouraged when things are going wrong. But I'm telling you, every single time it's an opportunity to make a change, make a shift that ultimately betters your health. It feels like your health is declining, but it's only to get you to wake up and to make a change to give yourself better health. So, how do you get into recovery then? If you're actually addicted to pain, what can you do to get yourself out of it, to get yourself into recovery? Which, if you know anything about addiction, whether this is a substance, relationship, like that relationship addiction, whatever it is, the addictions that you have, once, they always tell you, and I honestly, I kind of hate this because I hate labeling things. I hate just putting blanket statements out there or saying like once an addict, always an addict. Um, but I think the point to that is, once you hit recovery, like you're always in recovery. You know what I mean? Like I am, say I'm a perfectionist in recovery because I have the tendencies. I have tendencies to be a perfectionist, and I don't know if those tendencies will necessarily ever go away. So like your tendency to be addicted to pain based on childhood trauma may never go away, but there are things that you can do to help yourself actually get into that recovery and to be in a place where you can actually feel good and feel comfortable. Number one thing that you need to do is acknowledge it. Acknowledge first that maybe I am addicted to the pain. It's like some people too being addicted to stress. Like you could probably research some of that or heard people who are just addicted to stress because their bodies are so used to being in this fight or flight state that it feels uncomfortable to be still, to be at peace. I can vouch for that. Like I have definitely experienced that, and that's something I'm working on and that I will continue to work on. Like we don't always just get it figured out. Like if we could just take time and realize that like, hey, this is a journey, and think of like our life and our healing as in phases, and like each phase you get a little bit better, and then the next phase you get a little bit better, and the next phase you get a little bit better. You heal a little bit more of it. But the first step, honestly, to healing and to get yourself into recovery for this addiction to pain is to acknowledge it. Acknowledge that, yes, maybe I have a tendency towards it, and knowing that maybe this is because I was abused as a child. Maybe this is because I don't get attention any other way. Maybe this is because this is the only way I'll be able to get time to myself and not either, number one, not feel guilty about it, but number two, like maybe not get flack for it from the people around me, because maybe you are surrounding yourself with people who don't have boundaries, who don't appreciate self-care, who don't care for themselves, who don't want you to care for yourself. Misery likes company. The second step to getting into recovery from your addiction to pain is to commit to yourself to change it. When you can acknowledge that this is my pattern, that again is the first step. One step further, committing to changing, to intersect that pattern and to make different choices, which means you will have to do things differently. But before getting into those things that you're going to do, you have to make the commitment to yourself to do it. And number three, practice discipline until it becomes habit. I don't believe in motivation over discipline or discipline over motivation or any of them. The reality is actions that are repeated create habits. Habits that are repeated create your lifestyle. Therefore, you don't rely on discipline or motivation. It's literally muscle memory. It's just what you do. And so at first, though, when you are trying to make a change and make something stick, you do have to practice discipline. That's why I said commit to yourself. After acknowledging that this is a pattern you have, commit to yourself to change it, and then take action to start changing it. So, what does this look like? What kinds of things can you do to actually get yourself out of pain? When it comes to pain, you really need to address the physical tension, inflammation, and your stress, because all of those create each other's pain and affect one another. I'm going to create an entire episode on daily habits for getting yourself out of pain. But for today's purpose, just to give you some ideas of things that you will have to practice discipline with in order to get yourself out of pain and get yourself to feeling good, is having an exercise routine, having a balanced nutrition plan, getting 7 to 9 hours of sleep, and making sure you are hydrated properly. Also, managing your stress. And with someone who is addicted to pain, get comfortable feeling uncomfortable, because it's going to feel uncomfortable when you start to feel better. And you're going to want to sit in that. And in those moments, go back and reflect and try to see what your inner guide is telling you and what you could release, because that's an opportunity to release some of those emotional baggages that are still there from the original, probably childhood trauma, that then you can release and heal, which will then help you to not be so addicted to the pain and start enjoying the pleasure or the feeling of not being in pain. Also, if you are seeking physical therapy, chiropractic work, massage therapy, maybe acupuncture, craniosacral therapy, some somatic release therapy, whatever it is that you're doing, keep your appointments. Make it like it's a non-negotiable. No matter what comes up, unless it's a true emergency, and not everything is an emergency. Urgency is not emergency. So unless it's something that you physically cannot get to and you have to cancel, that's the only thing. I do understand some things come up, but I do have clients that I know for sure that they are only canceling because they do not believe that they can feel better. They are addicted to that pain, and it's something that is so subconscious they're not even aware of, because who would actually say or be like, yes, I'm addicted to pain, you know what I mean? But I do see a pattern, and I can even tell when I am messaging people by the way, like what they're asking and just how they respond to me. If there's someone who is truly addicted and is going to be someone who probably does not follow through. If I have to talk you into it, which I don't anymore, I've been doing this almost 20 years, and I'm not talking anyone into getting any sort of therapy. And another reason why I started this podcast, because I want to be able to help people. And I also know that sometimes I can't do that in my office. I mean, obviously, if you don't show up, I can't help you, right? Or if you don't continue on your treatments, then I can't help you. So I'm just giving you some other ways of looking at it and other things to do, but it's important to keep your appointments. You know, those people are going to help you, and you ultimately have to help yourself too. It is a team effort. So practice the discipline until it becomes a habit. Again, the only way you're going to get into the recovery and stop your addiction to pain is to acknowledge it, commit to yourself, and practice discipline until it becomes second nature. So let's recap on today's episode. We're talking about being addicted to pain, and it's just like being addicted to a substance, a bad relationship, a toxic work environment. You're doing it subconsciously. This is not a conscious thing that you're like, I am addicted to pain. You know, I am addicted to these things. You're doing it on a subconscious level. And for some reason, it feels safe. It feels safe because it's normal. It's normal to you. Although it's unpleasant, it is almost pleasurable because it's your normal, and anything outside of that is going to be abnormal. So the only way to really break free is to, again, acknowledge it, make a commitment to yourself to change it, and do whatever it takes to make the lasting change. Things take time. It takes 21 to 66 days to build a habit. And even beyond that, studies are all over the place about this. And personally, why I work with clients on a minimum of 10 weeks, because that gives the 67 days plus a few extra for them to make changes. And it's always just a starting point anyway. Like, it takes a lifetime sometimes to really have these changes. It can take several months to a year or two. For me personally, like, as I'm making changes, like, I will focus on, a couple things at a time, and I'll get really good at that, make that habit, and then we'll add something in, or we'll pay attention more. Like, when you just start the relationship of acknowledging things in your life and being able to connect to your body and be more mindful of what's going on, you can slowly make changes. And this is what allows you to not be overburdened by these things and to enjoy your life. Because again, our life's purpose here, in my opinion, is to learn, grow, and heal. And so throughout that process, like throughout life, we're going to be doing all that. You can't do all that right now. You're not going to heal every single ailment that you have, or every, mindset neurosis, you know what I mean? Like, every negative thing that you think, it's not all going to be corrected like right now. It's about opening yourself up to making changes, to allowing yourself to feel good, and just going along life and just piece by piece picking at it and chipping away at it all the time, while enjoying your life, enjoying the process. Even if it is a little uncomfortable, like, enjoy that. Like I said, be comfortable being uncomfortable. I hope this episode was helpful to you. I would love to know if you think you're addicted to pain, or if you know someone who's addicted to pain. And I'd love any other feedback that you have. And if you feel so inclined, I'd love for you to share it with someone if you think it could be helpful for them. And please go do something good for yourself, because you deserve it. I will see you next time. Bye.
Thank you so much for spending time with me, and I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Pain-Free Lifestyle Podcast. Please don't forget to subscribe, like this episode, and comment your biggest takeaway. Please remember that this podcast is intended for educational and entertainment purposes only. It does not replace medical advice. Always consult with your doctor for medical advice. I hope you have an awesome day, and I will see you in the next episode.